saw you at the. We didn't get the chat. I think I saw you at the SBF sentencing. Were you?
Yeah. Good for you for getting up and talking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. I know. It was good. It was good. I think that actually funny enough, he came across quite like, you know, you feel sympathy for him. Like it seems that he's a bit. I mean, you obviously know him much more, and I would love to talk about your experience with SBF and particularly what he said about, you know, Sullivan Cromwell and all the other guys. But even in my victim impact statement, I did say that, you know, he couldn't have conducted the fraud by himself. So It was like, you know, he's just one guy, right? So so I mean, we'll talk about it. But I mean, you've been involved in like Celsius as well, weren't you? Yeah.
I lost money to Celsius. I didn't lose money to FTX like you did. But it's almost nice to hear that you also sort of felt some sympathy for him. Because obviously, I mean, I did get to know him really well, but I've always been reluctant to say anything sympathetic about him because obviously that doesn't come across well to victims. But I mean, you obviously lost millions?
$2 million. 2.1.
So I was gonna even ask you how I should introduce you, but I mean, I guess you are an FTX creditor who lost a significant amount, $2 million. You've become incredibly active in the bankruptcy, and you even filed a class action lawsuit against not only Sam Bankman-Fried, but also a lot of the celebrity promoters, including Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen. Obviously, that's got a lot of press, but also the law firm Sullivan Cromwell, and there were other parties involved in that lawsuit as well. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Tiffany.
Of course.
And especially because of your relationship with SBF and Sullivan Cromwell, and you know, I saw some of these videos. So I'd love to hear about, you know, some of those talks you had with Sam, and we are actually still in touch,
although he's currently, I think, being moved to prison. So I think that we're currently out of touch, but we're in touch on email.
Oh, really? So he has like access to emails and stuff?
It's called Core Links. I don't think it's connected to the internet for him, but I think he can add like a limited number of people to his email list. So we've been in contact since January this year.
Oh, awesome. So how's he? I mean, when I saw him, obviously you were there as well at the SBF sentencing. He lost a lot of weight, right? So
he has lost a lot of weight. I haven't visited him in person, but I did release that image of him.
Exactly. I guess he's lost so I can imagine it's quite tough.
Yeah, it is. I think he's reluctant to like say how badly he's doing. He always, I mean, throughout all of this, he's always been like, I'm doing okay, I'm doing fine. But I think like we've had talks where he was just kind of like, it wouldn't come off well for me to say that I was doing poorly, because then it comes off as though I think I'm the victim here, when obviously other people were hurt so much more than I was. So he doesn't ever want to say that he's the one suffering. But so where would you like to begin this chat? Because I think that to some people's surprise, you and Sam Bankman-Fried are actually sort of on the same page in terms of Sullivan and Cromwell and their potential impropriety, and the fact that they may not have creditors' best interest at heart, along with John J. Ray.
Exactly, along with John Ray. We could definitely start with that. I mean, I guess, 100%. I think that we're kind of on the same page. I mean, you're obviously aware, or your viewers may not be aware. So some of them would be aware, but I'm a FTX creditor activist. So I was the first international plaintiff for FTX creditors, filing the first few class action lawsuits, predominantly against their fraud aiders and abettors of Sam Bankman-Fried's fraud. Because I've always held the view, even from the beginning when it went bankrupt, that one person can't conduct this fraud by himself. So, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar fraud, and you can't do it. You know, I couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. I mean, you know, and I've always been like, anyone who got not even significant amounts of money, even just like, a few $100,000, $1 million. You try putting that in a bank account, and I've told people, even on Twitter and stuff, you know how many checks you go through and how you made the money, your tax returns, blah, blah, blah. And then you expect us normal people to believe that this guy could transfer like, $500 million here and there without getting, anti-money laundering checks, people checking accounts. I've always been consistent in this view that essentially Sam was not alone in conducting this fraud. And even too far as a lot of people said, okay, you have the top management conducting the fraud. But then even then, I still disagree with the fact that you carry out this fraud with only the top management at FTX as well, because you need accountants, you need lawyers, you need funds to, people to create fund structures. You need people to sign off on anti-money laundering checks, your accountant, your accounts, I don't know. I mean, it's just normal. For me, it's just general. It's just life. You can't transfer significant amounts of money without the help of third parties
Yes.
to basically, attest your compliance and regulatory compliance. Your in good standing, whatever. So I think that we are on the same page to some extent. Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't do what he did, that way. But I mean, it's
we wouldn't go as far as to say that you're a fan of.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing like you, Tiffany. Yeah.
Little Sammy boy.
Fan of you. We have to add, he's a fan of you. But no, I saw him at the sentencing. I did honestly, I did feel kind of bad, and I've always. Not bad for it. I mean, I just felt that I certainly didn't want to be in a situation whereby that all the blame was put on him and then all the co-conspirators go scot-free. Because then it's like that would be a huge miscarriage of justice, because it's like, okay, we'll give Sam 150 years and then everyone else walks away like, okay, that's okay. I haven't done anything wrong. It's like, no, actually, even if you, it's like if you see someone getting murdered, do you just stand there and help them, or do you like stop the person getting murdered and call the police? It's like, for me, it's just, and I see this in the same way. Like, a lot of auditors and co-conspirators, they saw what he was doing or saw some red flags, and they turned the blind eye because they could profit. That's in my view. I mean, obviously, they say the opposite, like, they didn't know, but I mean, for me, I just, I can't see it personally that anyone with an ounce of intelligence who had some specific relatively insider knowledge of FTX would not have thought there was something dodgy going on. Yeah.
I totally agree. Hey, it's me, Tiff, and in case you've never heard of me before, I've been independently covering fraud and bankruptcies in the crypto space. Because of this, I know a lot of people who follow me or might recognize me were once customers of FTX. Well, that's where FTX Creditor comes in. FTX Creditor will buy your FTX bankruptcy claim and pay you immediately in USDC. FTX Creditor has actually bought more FTX claims than all of the other claims buyers combined. FTX Creditor even buys small claims as low as $1,800, all the way up to claims as large as $10 million. So if you're interested in selling your FTX claim for immediate liquidity, or in selling your Voyager, BlockFi, or Celsius stub, you can go to ftxcreditor.com or contact them on Telegram at @FTXCreditor or on X at @FTXCreditor_com. And I mean, it looks like the government was pretty singularly focused on Sam. Like, from the lawyers I've spoken with, it sounds like the co-conspirators like Caroline Ellison, Gary, and Nishad may get away with no jail time, but also obviously I think that not enough people are paying attention to other parties like Solcrom, and you've obviously been diving pretty deep into them. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that, and I guess we're on the same page. And I would actually, I know Sam talked to you a lot about Sullivan Cromwell. I mean, we filed a class action lawsuit against Sullivan Cromwell for aiding and abetting of Sam's fraud. I think we filed that in February 2024. A lot of FTX creditors customers are extremely angry. I would say angry, to say the least, about Sullivan and Cromwell's mismanagement of the bankruptcy post-petition. So I think that what we have to separate is between post-petition and, I guess, pre-petition. So pre-petition, we filed a class action lawsuit that they should have known, or they knew or should have known that the fraud was occurring. And in my opinion, as a professional, like I'm a finance, I'm an investor. Went to, I worked at JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. When I advise clients, then my credibility is on the line. I don't just attest to anything. You have to sign off on what your trades are. So I just cannot believe a lawyer, Sullivan Cromwell, would attest to something without knowing it's true. I personally, I cannot, and I've seen actually some of the emails following a class action, which Sam actually submitted for sentencing, and it's quite incriminating. Did you see those? Which
ones are you referring to?
I'm referring to specifically one which was sent by, I think, Colin Lloyd by Sullivan Cromwell to CFTC, and he said that Sam sent in a memo. Basically, it's them saying that there's no preferential treatment between Alameda and FTX.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
And then I mean, obviously, it's quite timely because the independent examiner report had just come out, and he said that he's not going to look into the regulatory emails, and I guess. But I find it personally, in my opinion, I just cannot believe Sullivan Cromwell, any lawyer, would sign off on something without getting proof that this is the case. I honestly, I mean, can a lawyer do that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
To me, it doesn't make sense either, and I don't know enough about how the legal system works, but it looked as though, I haven't read the full examiner report, but I did talk to Louis on the phone yesterday, and he basically said that the examiner concluded that there wasn't impropriety.
I mean, that's yeah, exactly. He concluded that, however, additional investigations need to be done on, I think, the Robinhood transaction, like the checks on that, and also, I don't know if the FTX US had a balance sheet hole, and also what was the other one? I think something to do with Ledger X, but nothing in detail. But that's what he concluded. There's no impropriety. But I find it. I read the report. I mean, maybe he will uncover additional information from the next phases. But it seemed that he weighed a lot of his opinion on Quinn, the conflicts counselor, who basically was hired by Sullivan and Cromwell, and also a lot of the evidence which was provided to him was via Sullivan Cromwell, and so obviously they're not going to provide evidence which was incriminating. So it's like, okay, this kind of odd situation, right? It's like, oh, you're investigating someone, but then you rely on them providing information. And then the funniest thing is that it was like, there's, oh yeah, but we didn't find any evidence, but on Signal there was some messages which were deleted, and it was like, what? I mean, really, seriously? And it's like Sullivan, and again, are they actually allowed to do? I don't even know. I mean, I don't know the regular. It doesn't sound right that a lawyer is communicating with their client on auto delete.
Totally. I mean, they used that against Sam at his trial, the fact that he was using Signal. But I mean, in conversation with Sam, he was like, well, the lawyers were fine with using Signal, so if that was something that was sort of like illegal, then shouldn't they have said something to me like that?
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, exactly. So that's my point. The same arguments which were used against Sam are exactly the arguments you can use against Sullivan and Cromwell. That's why I find it really bizarre, because I mean, I'm a victim, and then, I mean, obviously I'm a victim, but then I also understand, like, Sam is just like a guy, and he's he had people around him who he relied on, right? He relied on, like, professionals, and
totally. Yeah.
So
And if the lawyers were to have said that this was like some sort of red flag or this was improper, then
yeah, no, exactly. This improper. It's like it's just like odd. I find it really bizarre, honestly.
it is very bizarre.
Yeah. And then, oh God, another one in the independent examiner report, which I noticed, which is really weird. But basically, there was, Ryan Miller. So Ryan Miller is, was at the center of the fraud. Basically, he pushed. He's the one who essentially pushed FTX into bankruptcy, or said, "I have to wire $4 million into, Sullivan Cromwell."
He pushed Sam into filing for Chapter
11. Exactly, he pushed it, and then he knew about the Alameda backdoor, the code where Alameda could, it didn't have the liquidation, or the, funds could be transferred from, FTX to Alameda or whatever in summer. And that was actually found out by Julie. I think Julie, I can't pronounce her name correctly. Showing. So she's the risk manager of Ledger X. So she discovered this flaw in the code, I believe, and she brought it up to Zach Dexter and Ryan Miller. I think he discovered about it. And then in the same report, he said, okay, so Quinn concluded that Ryan Miller didn't know, or they didn't believe that Alameda was being used as a vehicle to use customer funds or something, or transfer customer, right? But then Ryan Miller knows that there is because of this code, it is possible to transfer customer funds from FTX to Alameda. So let's just so that's one point. However, it later on goes in the report, says that at the same time, Ryan Miller paid off a whistleblower that would put in controls to stop this occurring, the anti-money laundering checks and FTX commingling. So he actually paid off. So I just found it bizarre that you can reach that conclusion that Ryan Miller didn't know, because he knew it's possible to do it, and also he actually was involved in paying off people who brought up the fact that these anti-money laundering checks weren't in place and FTX could commingle customer funds. So, I mean, for me, it's weird.
That is
weird.
Very bizarre, very strange, very fishy.
Yeah, it's shady. It's shady.
Well,
actually, I did want to speak to you about your conversation with Sam. Actually, when I was quite interested, because especially with the examiner, they actually brought up that Sam wasn't pushed into the bankruptcy, or he wasn't coerced in filing for bankruptcy. But then from the messages and texts, I got the impression that he was, by the barrages of messages from Ryan Miller and Zach Dexter. And that was my impression. And Andrew Dietrich. I mean, they're quite like, So what was your feeling when you spoke to him?
No, I my feeling was definitely that. I don't know what would qualify as coercion in terms of legally, but it definitely seemed as though all parties were pushing him and saying that you got to sign this paperwork. And he also was saying that there were employees who were literally like crying and begging him to just sign things over and hand things over. But it didn't sound like he wanted to file for Chapter 11. He wanted to like keep fighting or whatever. And he said that like immediately after he signed, he regretted it and he was trying to undo the process, but it was too late. So to me, it did come off as though he was sort of pushed into it. I guess legally, I'm not sure what qualifies as coercion, but it sounded like he was pushed into it.
Yeah, that was I felt that he signed it. Apparently, did he sign it at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something really odd? And
it was like 3 or 4 a.m. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, right. Because I heard from other people. One person, bankruptcy specialist, said never. This doesn't happen. Usually, no company just literally in 2 days file for bankruptcy like at this speed in the US. And then he said that it usually takes several weeks to develop a plan and a handover and stuff, or it's weeks or months. And usually they then have even the lawyers there's like a bidding process. It's not like given to one lawyer to take over. So So that again, that to me, it doesn't sound right. That
Yeah.
you the person who, and then we even got text evidence. He said that Ryan Miller wanted to return to Sullivan Cromwell's partner or something like this, and that's sort of
Yes.
to give business to them. And
Yeah.
for me personally, it doesn't sound. It sounds kind of like, yeah, improper.
It
That
sounds improper to me as well. And even Celsius, for example, I mean, Celsius shut down withdrawals in June 2022, and then they filed for Chapter 11 a full month after that. So, I mean, there was a long process between shutting. Yeah. So, I don't think he had to rush into Chapter 11. And since then, he's said to me multiple times that filing for Chapter 11 has been his biggest regret. And I don't know if you agree with that sentiment or not, because ultimately, I don't know what would have happened if he just didn't file. I'm not sure what would have happened, but he has. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I mean, I'm 100% honest that honestly, I gave Sullivan Cromwell and John Ray the benefit of the doubt. So I actually, you look at my tweets and I basically never mentioned them for like at least 6 months or 8 months into the bankruptcy, because I was like, okay, I did some analysis on the fees and stuff and them spending a lot of money. But I kind of, I'm not a bankruptcy expert, and I was like, okay, professionals, they're professionals, right? You know, and John Ray is a professional. I'm not like one of these guys who like the conspiracists, but
I'm not either.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely not. So actually, I gave them benefit of that, and I thought, okay, yeah, it must be the best. Actually, 100%. I even told other people, oh no, why bankruptcy must be the best way of things, and they say, no, this is not right. What's going on? And then, to be honest, it was only quite late I realized a lot of the things they were doing, they were selling assets at massive discounts to the current value, and I thought, this is 100%, this is destroying customer value. Then totally, it's like the biggest one was Anthropic. Initially, it was like I actually went on Twitter and got UCC to stop the sale in, I think, April 2023 initially. Because yeah, exactly. Basically, they were trying to sell it at a discount to what Sam paid for it. So he paid 500 million. They was just selling it for like 450 million. And
oh my God!
They made a lot of major mistakes. Then I started looking into it and thinking, this doesn't sound right what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then they stopped. They didn't even try to like restart FTX 2.0. Then I realized, like, okay, these are just simple things which, you know, I gave him the benefit of the doubt as much as I could, but, you know, these things I know would add value to customers, and you're literally destroying customer value. Then I started looking into it more. Then I discovered that it was, how they were mismanaging the bankruptcy 100% has destroyed, I personally believe, in excess of what Sam, in excess of $10 billion at least. Yeah.
I think that you're probably right. I mean, it's indisputable that they've destroyed value for creditors. And even the sale of a lot of crypto, and first of all, at a loss, and also often apparently to insiders. And
yeah, exactly. Because I even brought it up, the SPF sentencing, like the major, you know, the massive qualm was, like, you know, the Lock Solano. I think that, I mean, I'm again, you know, John Ray, I gave him the benefit of doubt, but when he sent in a victim impact statement and he signs something, then he has to take, you know, accountability for what he signed. So I thought, okay, he's being, like, you know, pushed around by Sullivan Cromwell. But literally, he's not a victim, first of all, but he sent in a impact statement. I'm like, is this a joke, man? You know. And then and then he said, oh yeah, when I took over FTX, there was 100 bitcoins. Yeah, but then he doesn't mention like the 50 million Solano, which in fact at current prices today is worth, just the Solano is worth $10 billion. Just
oh my God.
But then they've been trying to sell it at like massive discounts, like $20. They sold it. They gave the mandate to Galaxy, which is Sullivan Cromwell's own client, and they sold it to themselves for like 70% discount to prevailing market price. It's like, you know, this is literally destroying customer value. So
it really is.
Oh my God. And so it was like bizarre to see his victim impact statement, because I'm like, And then the funny thing is that, oh my God, it's hilarious. He said, oh, I don't want thanks or some nonsense like that. Oh, dude, you're getting like, like $1 billion for customer money. Yeah, don't want thanks to help creditors. It's like, really? I'm not actually getting paid. And then he's like, I'm actually a victim and I'm not getting paid and I help like creditors file their claims, etc. And then he's asking for thanks.
That's so true. So true.
So bizarre. Honestly.
And it's like he can't have it both ways because he, in the victim impact statement, was very adamant that creditors are not being made whole at today's prices. Like he made that point clear just to contribute to Sam's potentially lengthened sentence. But now, I mean, all the PR that's coming out and all the headlines are just saying FTX creditors made whole, getting at least 118% of what they're owed. So it's like you can't have it both ways.
Exactly. You can't have it both ways. Exactly. And literally, and the media, they know they actually, and I've actually told the journalists, I'm not going to give any interviews to people who put this headline. Sullivan Cromwell gave them the headline. I mean, they all reach out to me for quotes. I'm not going to give them any more quotes anymore, any more interview. Honestly, it's like I have to hold them accountable. There's, like Bloomberg, some chap wrote, oh yeah, creditors are getting 100% recovery, unheard of. And then they have a caveat. Oh, it's at $17,000. These guys all follow me on Twitter. They were on, and they can't even deny. They can't even pretend that they didn't know because they follow me on Twitter. They went to the SBS sentencing. They read the victim impact statements from John Ray and myself and all the other guys. So you can't even deny the fact that you knew the truth. So they intentionally misrepresented the truth. So for me, why should I speak to any journalists who aren't going to tell the truth? What? It's like, I don't get paid. It's like, and then they reach out to me all the time for quotes. It's like, what? It's like, but there's a few good journalists who did write that, and I retweeted there, like even CNBC and a couple of others who. Yes. Cointelegraph, they wrote the truth. I retweeted them and Wired, I believe, and so fine. I'll give them quotes. I'm not going to speak to the guys who actually lied. Like literally, it's a lie. It's a lie.
It's so deceptive. It's incredibly deceptive,
and it is a lie because, it is a lie because even John Ray said it's false, right? In the victim impact segment, right?
Completely, yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into the FTX plan? I mean, since all the headlines have come out that are glowingly positive and say that creditors are getting over 100%. Do you want to get into the plan? Because I think that your basic sentiment is that creditors should vote no. Is that how you, okay.
Exactly. That's I know you've had Louis and Arish and a few others on your show who's probably got into the plan in more detail. So I won't bore your viewers about the specifics, there's a lot of there are a lot of issues about the plan. I think my major qualification, my main concerns, qualms would be obviously there's one thing. John Ray he wants to put himself in control of the plan administration with no accountability. So that's a major issue because how he's been managing the bankruptcy up to date. There's no way, he's going to look after customer interests. So that's my major concern. And then obviously with Sullivan Cromwell hiring them, or even Quinn or whatever lawyer firm, which would just basically sign off on what he wants.
Yeah. And I think he was given unilateral power to sort of alter and modify the plan without any, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. So unilateral decision. It's like, well, even Sam didn't have that. But it's odd. It's bizarre that. What the plan obviously doesn't consider property rights, and in my view, and I've said this at the sentencing, I personally don't see a difference between what Sam did prior to the bankruptcy and what they're doing in the bankruptcy now, because you can't. Like you said, you can't have it both ways. You can't convict Sam for 25 years because he stole customer deposits because he broke the terms of service, right? And the terms of service specifically says digital assets are the property of the customer. Then in the bankruptcy say, okay, terms of service doesn't apply. I'll just do what Sam did. I'll ignore the terms of service, and you know, you
selling customer property.
It's not property, customer property, and we don't have the crypto anymore. However, the point is, FTX itself and Sullivan Cromwell, they were involved in taking our crypto, right? So it's not the onus isn't on me to go and find the crypto. If someone steals my phone or house, it's not on me to find where they've laundered the money. It's up to the person who stole the property. Or I don't see a difference. They should be in jail. Like you're literally, you know, trampling on persons. I mean, I can't see a difference between them.
Totally. I think that's a totally fair point. I agree.
So it's like, I mean, so far what they've done is they've tried to, we filed a adversary proceeding to requesting for the bankruptcy estate to, you know, for the judge to, you know, basically rule on the property of assets. How I see, and then the bankruptcy estate is like, you know, staying the motion. They say they want to stay it. But for me, how I see it is it's quite unambiguous. The terms of service are unambiguous. So what they're doing, for me, the analogy would be like Sam, exactly. He took customer deposit. He treated people as unsecured creditors. So he took customer and did whatever he wanted with it, with the help of others, whatever. Sullivan Cromwell, they're doing exactly the same thing, and they're doing it before your court, because once the ruling occurs, then they know that it's our property. So for me, it's just basically before their court and ruled on, because once they're ruled on, they can't do it anymore. You're still liable for what you've been doing. Yeah. So I just find it weird. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree. And then you also took issue with, I guess, the fact that claims are being valued at the petition date. Is that something that you took issue with?
Yeah, exactly. That's my major issue. The claims are valued at petition date because it's our property. I mean, the terms of service is quite clear. So, you know, if Bitcoin is at, you know, they're valuing Bitcoin at $16,000 and Bitcoin is at, you know, $65,000 now, and Ethereum at $1,000, and now it's 4,000. And the viewers have to understand as well that it's the point is a lot of people bought Bitcoin at like $50,000. So they're making a massive loss, right?
Yeah.
They're not like people are like bought, and it's at all. One thing, they make a massive loss. Second of all, is that it's actually your property. It's like my analogy with this is like if I had a house, someone bought it, someone stole it. So let's say it's $100,000. Someone stole it and sold it for $150,000. Then they say, okay, I'll give you back your $100,000 and I'll keep the $50,000. I mean, I can't go and buy my house back, right?
Totally.
So that's the major issue, because it's your property. You should be returned the property, or at least the value of the property, so you can buy it back if you want.
Right. So like at today's prices.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, that's when I first heard that FTX's claims were being valued at the petition date, because I was in Celsius. I was like, oh, isn't that just how bankruptcy works? But actually in Celsius, I mean, we actually did hand over title to our coins. So it isn't actually exactly the same as FTX, because it's very clear in the terms of service that you retained title to your coins. So, I mean, that does make sense. And I mean, Sam has been adamant that creditors could be made whole based on today's prices. Yeah. I don't know if that's just something he's saying kind of out of his ass, but do you know that to be the case?
I personally believe we could be, and we should have been, and 100% we would have been if Sullivan, just for example, the Solano, if they kept the Solano and then they sold it at a good discount. I mean, that would have added, like, you know, okay, let's say $10 billion at current price. Let's say, okay, they get like, you know, 6 billion or whatever. Then you add, like, you know, restart FTX exchange, give equity to the creditors. Again, I personally believe it was a great exchange and was making money. So again, it's valuable, and you know, several $1 billion. So I do think that people can be made whole at current prices. Actually, I think it's a huge overreach by the plan, and I don't know who has put this in, and it seems that it's Sullivan and Cromwell because basically in the plan, and the independent examiner says, oh yeah, John Ray's making the decisions, but he's just a face, right? You know, John Ray is just acting on behalf of Sullivan. I gave him the benefit of doubt, but if your actions are all, you know, all your actions benefit Sullivan Cromwell, then obviously you're just a face, you're just a puppet, right? So in this case, I don't know if you saw it, but in the plan there's like an anti-double dip provision, which is they slid in there recently, and basically it's saying any plaintiff in a class action lawsuit, we will hold their claim so you don't get a double dip provision, which is basically trying to, you know, intimidate and threaten creditors not to pursue class action lawsuits outside the bankruptcy. And this is and I've filed a lot. There's like 72 defendants and all fraud aiders and abettors of Sam's fraud where we can recover funds. And this is a major conflict of interest again, because Sullivan Cromwell is a defendant in one of the class action lawsuits. So again, this proves that John Ray and the plan is not acting, because this is 100% against their fiduciary obligation to FTX credit customers, because basically you're trying to threaten or reduce customer recovery from lawsuits outside the bankruptcy estate. You know, so that is a major issue.
And I saw that you tweeted, and I didn't know this stat, but you said that 50% of recovery in Enron came from class action lawsuits, which included $7.2 billion of securities fraud. I didn't know that stat.
Yeah. Exactly. There was that's one of the biggest recoveries, and it came from the class action lawsuit. I mean, it's like the class action lawsuits are huge. A huge source of recovery. It's massive. And then Enron, I mean, that was against a lot of the banks, accountants. So I mean, I think that he's stifling, and we know this. My lawyers know this, and he's stifling our class action lawsuits, which is 100% is against customers' interests. So you can take that as you will. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you defend that if you have a fiduciary obligation to your customers, right?
Totally. Yeah. Okay. Very good point.
Yeah.
And then do you have other major issues with the new plan that you think creditors should know?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's a couple of not minor. I think that the withholding tax issue, I think in the US, they're going to tax, because again, I think it's what they're saying. It's kind of a lie as well, because they're saying they're going to classify interest on your petition date. So then they're going to charge you interest on the petition date, and they're going to withhold like 30% tax, etc. And again,
that's specific to international creditors, correct?
Exactly, which is again unfair, because one is that, you know, your claim is, you know, I actually paid tax on my claim already in the UK. So it's like because it was like, so I've already paid like capital gains on my loss. So it's just weird that they're doing this double taxation, and then they're classifying interest as interest income, which is again not beneficial for creditors, and it's not even true because it's our property. So I think the withholding tax, and then I think that again he actually. Like going back to your point of unilaterally changing the plan, I think they recently said that they're going to, the timing of the distribution, again, they're pushing it out even now. I think something like to October. They'll keep extending it. So I think that those were the major issues. My major issues.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I honestly, I'm not a bankruptcy expert. I'm sort of like, are these issues, do you know if these issues are going to be able to be changed? I mean, even the valuing claims at the petition date, it sounded like Judge Dorsey was kind of reluctant to value claims at today's prices. So even if creditors were to fight back against that, and I think that your points are completely fair. I'm like, do you know these issues to be realistically?
That's the thing. I know I'm not a bankruptcy expert. I do know that the CFTC and other government agencies actually agree. They know that it's not, we're not being valued at we're not getting our property back. So I believe that there are ways around it. So I don't know within the bankruptcy, but for sure there's ways and literally the plan is trying to stifle the ways. So the other way would be the class action lawsuits, which is outside the bankruptcy. Again, he's trying to stifle it. And then the CFTC and the funds could go to, customer crypto, or, and I know the CFTC and the governments know this. I mean, I was at the sentencing. They understand this. DOJ, they understand that we're not getting. So I believe that they would help with they would be sensitive to our concerns. So I'm concerned that John Ray is not using these avenues and not to help creditors. These avenues which can be used he's fighting against us, which is extremely concerning.
It is concerning. Then what do you suggest that creditors do? I guess you feel they should vote no, or do you suggest there's any other actions that creditors should take?
So working probably voting no, but maybe we would need a alternative plan, I presume. So it will make it easier for people to at least vote yes on a different plan. And it's not easy to provide or propose an alternative plan, but there are big creditors that may be involved. So I think that the easiest would be to have an alternative plan because their exclusivity has run out. And I think that there's quite a few things which they've tried to done clauses in the major one. They've put in clauses that basically releases them from liability from pre-petition fraud.
Sullivan Cromwell?
Yeah, Sullivan Cromwell, and also any of the administrative, even Eversheds, the ad hoc, which is the ad hoc committee, so any liability, because if you put in clauses like that, it sounds actually that they've done things which are wrong, and they know that, and they want to release from it, because it's very unusual to put in clauses to release you from pre-petition fraud, as well as the Eversheds ad hoc committee within the bankruptcy.
That is very fishy.
It's fishy. It's actually really fishy. It's like, so I don't know.
Soul.
I know, exactly. Oh my God. Honestly, I mean, it's wow. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting more, like it seems like I understand what Judge Kaplan at SBF sent in a trial, that he didn't want him to SBF to bring in Sullivan Cromwell, but it's relevant for class action lawsuits. So I think that what he was saying is, in my opinion, professionals have, you have weight when you say something, because you have to adhere to some professional standards. And when they say stuff, then it carries weight. I mean, if I give legal advice, and no one's going to believe me, right? Because it's like, I'm not a lawyer and I don't attest to be a lawyer. But if you're, Sullivan Cromwell attesting about regulatory and compliance and things, then it's, people believe you, and you have to adhere to the professional standards.
Totally. Well, on the other side of your argument that customers should vote no, I mean, as a Celsius creditor, I do remember, I had some qualms with the plan, but I know that I did vote yes on the Celsius plan, more because I just wanted to quickly get out of bankruptcy as fast as possible, because obviously every day that you remain in bankruptcy, you are bleeding funds to Sullivan and Cromwell. What would you say to that? I mean, I'm obviously not an FTX creditor, but do you have any?
Exactly. So I think the ideal scenario would be an alternative plan without their involvement. So without John Ray's or Sullivan Cromwell's involvement in the plan. So I 100% agree with you. Otherwise, you'll maybe change the major issues of the plan, particularly about class action lawsuit, because even that is such a major overreach, which doesn't make sense, because in Enron's case, over 50% recoveries came from class action lawsuits, so we can definitely recover stuff, but as long as we're allowed to do it. So So I think changing the plan to make it at least so we can have ways to recover additional funds, or basically someone else propose an alternative plan.
Yeah, so that the
Yes.
bankruptcy isn't just like prolonged.
Exactly. So I mean, I know obviously there are forces working towards trying to get the plan done and trying to manipulate the media and public to say that this is massive recoveries, great recoveries. But, yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, creditors are losing a lot of value in this recovery. That's getting so much positive press. Yeah,
I think
totally.
so. I think so. And then losing a lot of value, and also we got. My concern is they're going to just sweep everything under the carpet, all the improprieties, all the fraud aiders and abettors. It will all be forgotten, and then it will be like Sam did this fraud, Sullivan Cromwell, great, John Ray did an amazing job getting this plan done, and then he becomes carries on becoming the administrator, drags it on for another 7 years, whatever, with his fishy lawsuits, which hasn't given anything back to FTX credit. So that's my concern as well, if they continue to be involved.
Totally. I mean, I think it's awesome that you're going after all the fraud aiders and abettors. Is there any progress in the class action lawsuit? I mean, Sam is you've reached a settlement with Sam, and he's agreed to help provide you with documents about Sulcrom and who else, Deltec Bank and
actually all the defendants actually in our so Sam's been really helpful within our class action lawsuits, so which is great. We've reached a settlement. I mean, obviously the judge gave restitution in other, the Robinhood shares anyway, so our settlement was more on information, and he's been really helpful. So it's all information on Deltec Bank and but all the defendants, any of the defendants, the promoter. So our class action lawsuits are divided into 7 different categories. So we have the VC funds like Sequoia, Temasek, and then you have the auditors, lawyers like Sullivan Cromwell, Fenwick, and then the banks, Deltec. Yeah,
and the celebrity promoters. I mean, all the headlines love the headlines about
the top radio. You know more of them than me. Well, who's Kevin O'Leary, and what was the other sports? Otani, or sorry.
I mean, I know that there are also a lot of the big YouTubers, and it is funny because I've actually there's a bunch of YouTubers live in Las Vegas where I am, so I've actually met a lot of these Graham Stephan and Andre Jick and stuff.
Oh my god, yeah.
They were scared when they first met me because they were all part of this class action lawsuit, and they're like, this girl's gonna try to expose us. But I have now met a lot of the people that are involved in this class action lawsuit.
I know, exactly, yeah. So actually we had BitBoy even, and then but then I think we settled with him because he's got a bit loopy, hasn't he? He's gone
a little nuts.
Yeah, he's got a bit nuts. I think that
I no longer talk to BitBoy.
Exactly. I think he's so a lot of them. I mean, personally, I think that those guys, they're probably small fish, the YouTuber guys, but the big ones are like MLB, Major League Baseball, Formula One, Mercedes, and then Shaquille O'Neal. I think Shaquille O'Neal and a few of those top guys. Those are the celebrity promoters.
And I saw you have K5 in there.
Oh yeah, K5, exactly. That fund. Yeah, exactly. We haven't even got the Scaramucci's fund, Skybridge, and so it's quite a lot of them. So so let's
good
see
work.
how.
I mean, I hope it comes. I hope that.
Hopefully, hopefully. I mean, obviously, John Ray is trying to squash the class action lawsuits again. It doesn't look good, so it's great. For someone proper journalists like you, getting it out, because it doesn't. I mean, for me, it just shows that you're not interested in customer recovery if you're trying to make sure that class actions don't go ahead, right?
Totally, completely. Not a fan of John Ray.
Yeah, exactly. Not a fan of John Ray. I mean, I gave him the benefit of doubt because I thought he's the adult in the room, and then after he, these things, then I just can't. Yeah, I can't support him anymore.
I totally agree. I mean, because Sam would go on about Fulcrum and John Ray while he was on house arrest. He'd go on about them a lot, and I was just kind of like, oh, it feels like you're just trying to shift blame. Like I was not super receptive to his qualms with those with John Ray and Fulcrum. But now that more and more has come out, I'm like, I think Sam was kind of right on.
No, I know exactly. Oh my god, I'm exactly in your mind as well. I mean, like exactly the same place, because I was like, yeah, Solcom must be amazing. It's like if like someone like JP Morgan, someone took over and said, yeah, they must be great. Yeah. And John Ray, yeah, he's an old man. Of course he's trying his best. And
he did Enron. Yeah.
And I proof. I mean, I've messaged people and say, no, he's okay. He's fine. I mean, I'm not going to be worried about bankruptcy. And then it's like, honestly, now I'm just thinking, oh my God, I'm just sick of it. It's like, I can't like...
It's so true. Yeah. No, when Sam would go on about those things, like it would be kind of like an eye roll from me. I'd be like, yeah, Sam. It just didn't. But no, I completely agree.
I was curious, how did John Ray actually get? Because even in the independent examiner report, it was kind of weird how John Ray became the CEO. Because wasn't he supposed to get the CRO, the chief risk officer, and Sam's should have continued as CEO. Something odd. I think the transfer over and the timing of the transfer. Someone even mentioned to me. I don't know if this is true. You probably know, but I mean, I haven't looked at the timings of it. But they said that even Sam didn't actually sign the document, or did he say that? Did he actually say that he signed it, or the time?
He did say that he signed them, but sort of against his will. But I'd have to look more into that. Sam has sent me a lot of like really long, lengthy documents about Fulcrum and that day specifically that it's kind of gotten a little lost because he sent me those like during his house arrest, and I didn't take it that seriously at the time. It felt like he was blame shifting. So
you have the most information on that, honestly. And I retweeted one of your. I think one of the chats he retweeted one of your videos with Sam, the interviews and the dates, and Sam was saying that FTX US is solvent, and they forced Sam to sign it, or had loads of barrage of emails and stuff. And the whole transfer, that it was weird because apparently John Ray shouldn't have even been CEO. He should have been the chief risk officer or CRO. I don't know what's that. Anyway, it's weird what happened, and they, basically coerced him or forced him, or he was like, middle of the night, sign something.
Totally. Yeah. I need to go back and read through some of those documents. Yeah, because I didn't take that seriously.
I think it would be, I'm sure you'll find out a lot of interesting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now knowing, looking back.
Everything that's come out since then. Yeah, totally. Is there anything else? I feel, God, I wish I structured this more professionally, but.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's just a casual chat. It's great. No, I think we covered most. I think the pre-petition, how it was handed over to Sam. I mean, handed over from Sam to Sullivan, and then also the mismanagement afterwards. I think those are the main things, and obviously the plan and the independent examiner.
The handing over was very fishy. I mean, I feel some sympathy. I mean, Sam would always say that filing for Chapter 11 and signing that paperwork was his biggest regret. And I was like, Sam, at the time, I was like, Sam, I think that you should have bigger regrets than that. But, that wasn't such a good day.
I know, but I've heard it from other people as well. Like you're right, but even some other guys. Actually, one of the heads at Binance, actually, I think, spoken to his CFO or something, and he moved on. And then he said that again. He also said that the biggest problem was Sam handing over the keys to Sullivan Cromwell, because they actually ended up controlling the narrative of the truth and what information got out, and they stopped him having access to anything, and then he couldn't help recovery as well, to get customers whole, right?
Totally. I do obviously Sam was guilty of massive scale financial fraud, but I do genuinely think that he was he was genuine in his efforts after the bankruptcy to try to recover and try to get customers as much value back as possible. I know that he emailed John Ray multiple times trying to help point him in the right direction to find some of the funds, but John Ray apparently ignored all of his emails.
Oh wow, yeah, I can imagine exactly. And then, I mean, now I'm becoming. I mean, I feel more for Sam considering what's happened, particularly that the fact that they destroyed value, like not even entertaining restarting FTX, trying to squash the class action lawsuits, to selling, assets to their own clients. It's just like too much to ignore.
Totally. And seeing that, like, I don't know if Fulcrum hadn't destroyed so much value, it could potentially be possible that customers could have been made whole at today's prices. And
exactly. No, I 100% believe that. Honestly, I really believe that, because even just out of the back of the envelope calculations for me, that the FTX exchange itself, it would be extremely valuable restarting it. And if you don't even entertain it and say there's, and then we know that it's untrue that there was a lot of people interested in the exchange as well. So
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I never used FTX, but people seemed really happy with the actual product. Obviously,
exactly. I mean, it was a good product. I mean, it was really, the great interface. It was a great product, and I cannot believe that despite there's a lot of maybe there's a lot of inefficiency or some technical problems, computer issues behind the scenes, which I don't know of. But there's a lot of people, like really intelligent and IT whiz tech kids and exchanges that would love to own the customer list, right, and help restart the exchange, fix up the code and stuff. It can't be so. I just cannot believe that there wasn't anyone interested.
That is so true. That is so true. Even the customer list. I mean, there are ways that they could have extracted some value from it.
Exactly, right? I mean, it's like guys who are great traders. People are, I continue to trade. They're they make their trading fees. They make a lot of money from this, and they've 100% destroyed value by not even trying to restart it or sell the customer list. Yeah,
completely. I totally agree. And so did you read the entire examiner report?
I did, and a few times, and it was, I felt the overriding stance was he was basing a lot of his conclusions based on Quinn Emanuel's findings, who was obviously hired by Sullivan Cromwell, and based on Sullivan Cromwell's findings or signal messages, which again some are auto delete or some are deleted, and what you're not going to incriminate yourself. So it's kind of like
very true.
So it's like I think that there's some hope that he will uncover additional stuff in his. But I was kind of little disappointed personally.
Yeah, it sounded that way. I didn't read it, but Louis just gave me the rundown, and it sounded a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
Louis did mention that Sam Trabucco was mentioned a few times. Are you surprised that Sam Trabucco has been able to get out of this pretty much scot-free?
Pretty much scot-free. I know that he took a lot of funds, or he knew about it, and I guess maybe he was an informant and stuff. But yeah, it's annoying, but I think, to be honest, I think the least is not my issue is not actually he's disappeared, right? Yeah. He's not staying around destroying customer value now. So my major concern is what we're getting paid the petition date pricing. They could have maximized recovery.
Yeah.
Destroying value now. So
I totally agree. Like the things that matter now are what can actually impact creditors' recoveries.
Yes, exactly. I'm more concerned about that. And that's if Sullivan Cromwell just buggered off and then, to be honest, the reason they get so much stick from me and it's because they stick around destroying value.
Yeah.
If they just buggered off, then I wouldn't
I'm actually in the same exact boat, and that's how I felt about Celsius as well. I know that obviously it's great to uncover all the wrongdoing that happened in the past, but at this point it's kind of hey, I want to get as much money back as possible. That's what
exactly. And how do I do that?
I
Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah.
At
So
this point, though, I mean, like, is it realistic that like we can just boot John J. Ray or Saul Cromwell? I mean, that might just slow down the process. So, I mean, at this point, are you hoping for like John Ray or a new law firm to be hired, or are you just kind of hoping
yeah,
they?
I am. I'm
Oh, you
hoping.
mean?
Yeah, I think a new a proposal for a new law firm, a new CEO and stuff. And, oh,
Would
actually,
that just set the whole process back, though? I don't know how it
I
works.
don't think so. I think that they've used that argument that, and John Ray used that argument back in January last year, so a year and a half ago, saying that it would set the process back if Sullivan Cromwell was, they chose another law firm. But why would it set it back? Like everything's done. I don't think that you need, you have, it won't set it back at all. But in my I mean, in fact, a lot of the assets are held in cash anyway. So it's like it's just distribution at the moment. They're not
True.
they're not actually doing anything, and I don't
This
know
is
why they're charging the state so much money, because they're like, I think they've sold a lot of the assets. They've got like,
they've already done enough damage. I mean,
yeah,
they've already
exactly.
sold
They've already done enough
assets.
damage, right?
Crypto's basically gone. I mean, that's actually something that we forgot to touch on. I guess one of the issues with this plan is that, I mean, they're planning on repaying and distributing funds in US dollar, or no, in checks, rather
Yes,
than in any sort of crypto or USDC. And
yeah,
most creditors are obviously international, because FTX International was an international exchange.
yeah,
So
exactly,
yeah,
and
a lot of
then
them.
people don't even have bank accounts, or they don't have check facilities. I think in Australia they can't deposit checks and things like this. So it's not, and that's a led to, and I don't know if this is a ploy in order to get people to sell claims to the big claim buyers, because it seems John Ray and the Eversheds, the claim buyers, have a too close relationship, as in I think that some of the claim buyers, I don't want to name names, but there could be impropriety there, but yeah, because it was just too. The thing is, a lot of the plan initially also is to do with helping the claim buyers scare creditors to sell their claim to them. So they might change that check thing, but I think a lot of the claim buyers are based in the US. They actually don't mind checks. They actually prefer to get checks. So John Ray doesn't care. They'll say checks. But actually, retail clients do care, because it's, some of them don't have bank accounts.
Yeah.
So I mean, and they're the real victim. So again, I think there's impropriety there, but that's probably for another show. Yeah.
You're welcome to come on anytime, Sunil.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, like, obviously you have a platform yourself, but I'm happy to amplify anything you think is important for creditors to know.
Oh no, I mean, no, but your YouTube channel is great, and it's like, so do you have so I guess you put segments on your Twitter, and then you
yeah, I don't really have a true pattern or any. There's no like rhyme or reason. Sometimes I'm like, I'll pop something on Twitter. Sometimes I'll pop it on YouTube, or both. But yeah, no, I'm happy to like obviously you've been doing such great work.
Oh no, it's awesome. Your journalism is great, and then at least you get. I mean, the thing is, I only want to speak to honest people, and I've spoken to a lot of journalists, but people who I remember the journalists who portrayed a story truthfully, rather than so of course I'll be happy to always come on.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I mean, I'm not the most serious journalist.
I'm not serious at all, I guess. So it's like,
yeah. Did you have any questions for me? Because obviously, I was going to ask you.
Have you guys been refunded from the Celsius?
Oh, in Celsius? Yeah, I think we got basically about I think it's around a quarter of the money that I got back. But I mean, unlike FTX, obviously we got actual liquid crypto back, which was great, because obviously prices have increased so much since we were repaid, and obviously since the petition date. So I mean, I'm still obviously down a lot. I left quite a bit in Celsius, but actually nothing compared to you.
No. I think it's just, people say that, but I think it's all relative. I think it's like I remember when mine went back. When I went back, I had to tell people, and it was a huge amount. It's like, but then I feel worse for the person. There was a chap. I feel really. He's a Turkish chap, really sweet guy, and I think that he lost $15,000, but he he had like $600 in his bank account, and that's all he had left. Oh my God. And I felt so bad. Like, imagine that. And then there were people like who obviously committed suicide and they lost their life savings. Others, you know, had to borrow money. So I think in the end, it's not actually the absolute, yeah, it's not the dollar absolute amount. It's relative. It's always relative, and it's also your situation in life and whether, yeah, I guess your personality. Because to be honest, I did feel really bad when it occurred, but then I also felt if I was feeling so bad, I couldn't imagine how other people. Because I'm an optimistic guy, you know. I've had a
you have a great attitude.
Yeah,
you've always been so like smiley and laughing.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm grateful. To be honest, I've had a great life. I'm really grateful for everything, even before what's happened. So I've always been an optimistic person. So I felt really bad because it's like overnight stolen. So it can't compare to losing money on an investment, because you know how much you're going to lose when you invest. You're not. Yeah. Yes, it's stolen overnight. It's gone, and you think it. So then I felt okay. I had to fight back, and I think that's given me strength. But then I met creditors across the world. They're so depressed, especially when it occurred. I don't know if it was the same at the Celsius situation, but you know, people, it's like it was so depressing, and especially people on Twitter, they're just either depressive or I don't know, they're like not pessimistic, or like I don't know, they kick victims when they're down, or
totally.
Yeah,
well,
so
not your keys, not your coins. I mean, I definitely went
exactly.
So insufferable. Like, yeah, we are all aware. Yeah, we know. We're feeling it. No, yeah, I definitely went through a period of being extremely depressed. I was suicidal. I was already going through a really hard time at the time that I lost money to Celsius. So I had like a few months of being suicidal. And thankfully I've managed to turn it into something that's like useful in my life. But I mean, obviously not everyone was able to do that. But I totally feel for anyone who left like their entire life savings and everything like that.
Exactly, and a lot of retail people, and and I know Celsius even more. Apparently, it was like a lot of like mums and lots of
I mean, obviously both, like there isn't really a worse, like, I don't know, they're obviously awful, both of them are awful, but I do think that the way Celsius marketed, I mean, they were saying we're safer than a bank, so I think a lot of people were using Celsius as like where they left their entire life savings. So I did a lot of people.
It's really sad, and they don't literally walk away. They don't care. It's like it's
so sad.
It's so sad, and I think that. I mean, Simon was good, and you were really good, like bringing people together. I think that the FTX. I guess I did, but when I first started, I saw that most people were trying to kick down creditors and not fight for creditors' rights, and saying you've lost everything. It's not your keys. Oh, we knew about the fraud. Blah blah blah. It's like everything was like trying to say, forget about it and don't. That you can't do anything. You can't. So I think that we've come a long way. I think that I have a lot of support from creditors and customers, and I think even then when I was fighting back, they said, "Oh, you can't do anything anyway." Like he's not going to go. Even back then, he's not going to go to jail. No one's going to be charged. You're forget about it. Just it's like
so many people the entire time saying Sam is never going to see the inside of a jail cell. I was still getting comments like that when Sam was in MDC. I'm like, what? He's literally in jail.
Exactly. I know. So you're like, I'm meeting him in his cell. And
like that man is never going to see the inside of a jail cell. I'm like, he's literally in jail right now, right? Oh my God, it's so insane.
I know, it's so weird. These guys are like nut jobs.
People are insane. People are insane. You have a good head on your shoulders, and I feel like you've been probably the most prominent creditor and the most outspoken creditor. So I'm so honored that you're.
Oh no, I'm honored. Thank you so much. Because I don't take bullshit. Because people say like crap to me on Twitter. I'm like, I don't do bullshit. So now that a lot of them don't bother even saying anything.
They've just slowly receded into the shadows.
I remember back when I started, a lot of people used to, because they didn't, I started with like literally I never used Twitter before before FTX, so I built
I didn't use Twitter
I
before
see
Celsius.
you. I see you. So then they didn't know you. So I'll post something or say something. And loads of like people, big influencers thought that they, so they say that I would I don't take shit from anyone. And now they don't say anything. It's like,
Oh my god, that's so funny. I'm still seeing people say like Sam is gonna get what is it, pardoned by Biden, and I'm like I've just started to think, I will bet you a Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoins that Sam does not get pardoned. I'm sure these people will just.
It's like the world doesn't work like that. I mean, I'm glad he got a reasonable sentence, and I didn't want him to be like 150 years and
Right, like till the day he dies.
Before I went in, I that was the fear. I think even you probably know more than me. Was that his fear that they would like basically like do a Bernie Madoff on him?
He actually, Sam, he actually didn't think he'd get like a Bernie Madoff sentence. I think that he thought it'd be longer than he got, but he never thought he was going to get like 100 years or anything. But I mean, the entire time, Sam has always said to me that he thinks that a 20+ year sentence is the same as life, which I think is a little delusional. But I think that also Sam, for some reason, I mean, he's mentioned this to me that he thinks that he's going to die before like the 20+ years is over.
Really?
I don't know.
Right? He's 30.
Sorry.
He's 30.
He's 32. So it doesn't sound to me like he was worried about the actual violence in jail, but he's sent me some statistics about like how for every year you're in jail, your life expectancy is cut short by 2 or 3 years and things like that. So he thinks he's gonna die, and he also has been like, even if I don't die by the time I'm out of jail, my useful life is over, and I think that he's.
I mean,
so
isn't it? So he got 25 years, but then he gets, okay, the federal thing is like 80%, but isn't it he can get out and half for good behavior? I haven't looked at, I mean,
no, so there's no parole in the federal system, so he has to serve at least 85% of his sentence, and then beyond that, the only things that are available to him are like if he participates in some of these programs, like for a drug program or anything like that. But Sam has always been adamant that he's like, I don't have a drug problem, etc. So I don't actually see him partaking in some of those programs. So I think he's going to serve about 85% is what it sounds like. And I've spoken with some lawyers and they say that like unless he's released on some sort of like compassionate release, he'll likely serve at least 21 years.
But what happened with that other chap? What's his name? Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Jordan Belfort. I actually don't know. I haven't actually looked into his case much.
Out like doing all this random speeches. I'm like, what? Why would anyone listen to him? I can definitely see Sam doing something like that. It's like
very true.
It's like
very true.
Like he was terrible. I think he was that like the penny stock, and he was like selling penny stocks to like grannies and whatever.
Yeah. I actually don't know how. I actually didn't follow that at the time. I kind of want to look into that now.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that Sam is like. I think he's a young guy. To be honest, I don't know how much he'll serve. Yeah, if he does the program, maybe he can get it. But I mean, get out. But I mean, even if he gets out in 20 years or 18 years, he'll still be only like 40, 45, 48 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the drug program would only give him like 1 year off his sentence, so basically it'll still be close to 20 years that he's going to be in there, which is, I mean, to me it's like unimaginable. I mean, I'm 20. Oh God, no, I'm 30 now. But that's the majority of my life. I just turned 30.
Young. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how old you are, as long as you look young. That's right. It doesn't matter.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so glad we got to talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime there's anything new or important that you'd like to talk about, or if anything just randomly comes to your mind that you'd like to talk about, just let me know and we can always hop on this and chat.
Definitely. Awesome. Okay. Lovely.
I'll talk to you soon, Sunil. Keep up the good work.
Oh yeah, you too. Thanks so much. Okay, bye-bye.